Welcome to this explainer brought to you by Forge College. If you've been following along in our capstone module for planning and executing a Solana deployment strategy, you know we have been incredibly busy gathering all the puzzle pieces of our project. I mean, just imagine your desk right now. If it's anything like mine, it's probably this terrifying, messy pile of operational playbooks from our last synthesis lesson, along with monitoring checklists and troubleshooting runbooks that are honestly giving you a mild headache. Well, take a deep breath, because today we're going to transition from that chaotic desk into a unified, stress-free architectural blueprint. We are going to build a comprehensive deployment plan that actually works. So let's get organized.
Okay, let's do a super quick rundown of our agenda for today. We'll start with a master blueprint, then tackle scope and objectives, followed by milestones and metrics. After that, we'll dive into the blueprint workflow, walk through a case study on a Solana marketplace, and wrap things up by finalizing the blueprint.
All right, Section 1, the master blueprint. Let's talk about engineering a codified plan.
So the absolute crucial point here is that a true blueprint is definitely not just some dusty Google document that gets forgotten in a shared drive or, lost in a sea of 80 browser tabs. Nope. It is a single, cohesive, machine-readable structured object. I want you to think of it as the core engine diagram that guides your decisions, your handoffs, and your measurable outcomes. The real magic, that happens when your CI/CD pipeline can actively parse this blueprint to validate its completeness automatically. It literally removes human error from the equation.
Think of this plan almost like a piece of code, right? Like a TypeScript object. It holds everything essential: your scope summary, measurable objectives, milestones, and hey, with strict ISO dates to avoid any global time zone confusion, success metrics, stakeholders, and your prioritization rationale. Structuring it this exact way lets us run static validation checks. We want to ensure all vital system components are physically present before anyone even thinks about deploying on a Friday afternoon. Because as we all know, deploying blindly on a Friday is a guaranteed recipe for ruining your weekend. Just don't do it.
Moving right along to Section 2, Scope and Objectives. This is all about defining the engine's boundaries.
Explicitly stating what is out of scope is absolutely essential. We have to lock in our in-scope items, so the actual program modules deployed on-chain, the web front end, and assumed dependencies, but just as boldly, we have to declare what is out of scope, like deferred analytics features or maybe some complex cross-chain bridging. Documenting this heavily is the only way to prevent scope creep from magically turning your sleek Solana NFT marketplace into a crypto-powered toaster right in the middle of a tight, stressful launch window.
And when you're converting product goals into actual objectives, they cannot be subjective feelings. Saying, make it go fast, that's not an objective. Actually, scratch that, it's just a wish. But maintaining an average confirmation latency under 500 milliseconds across the 95th percentile for 14 straight days, now that is a highly specific, time-bound target. We can actually measure and test against that using real monitoring metrics from an observability stack. It gives your engineering team a very hard, undeniable line of success or failure.
Which brings us to Section 3, milestones and metrics. Let's look at gating our progress with precision. So how do we translate that subjective, yeah, I think we're ready, feeling into hard, objective gate checks? We establish distinct, uncompromising milestones. Take a pre-launch audit. The strict criteria here is that all high-severity findings are remediated, and that's owned directly by the security team. For a staging smoke test, end-to-end flows must completely pass on staging. That's owned by QA. And for a canary launch, well, that requires a phased mainnet rollout with 0 critical incidents for 72 hours, owned by operations. Assigning testable criteria and specific owners ensures every single sign-off is meaningful, auditable, and firmly rooted in reality, rather than just a gut feeling.
Okay, Section 4, the blueprint workflow. Time to start assembling our raw materials.
This right here is our reliable assembly line. Step 1, we start by inventorying our program templates and runbooks. From there, Step 2, we draft a concise scope and objectives document. Next up, Step 3, we turn our monitoring checkpoints into concrete acceptance criteria. Then, Step 4 involves adding prioritization scores so we clearly sequence the launch. And finally, Step 5, we circulate the draft plan to capture stakeholder feedback as actual, binding changes to the criteria, not just some vague comments in a Slack chat. This repeatable 5-step process cleanly converts your raw artifacts into a fully deliverable deployment blueprint.
Now you might be asking yourself, why does this workflow actually matter in the real world?
I ask this because, honestly, in various Forge College learning courses, we constantly see teams struggling with massive walls of documentation that nobody ever reads. Following these exact steps eliminates that common friction where monitoring telemetry and remediation runbooks live in total isolation from the actual launch plan. By codifying your acceptance criteria during the planning phase, you make your rollouts auditable, you make them automatable, and you create this brilliant closed loop from planning straight through to live observability.
Let's jump into Section 5, our case study on a Solana marketplace. Let's take this for a test drive.
So, for this specific Solana NFT marketplace, we aren't just politely asking the system to handle high traffic. No way. We write a concrete goal. Support 1,000 concurrent listings with a median confirmation time under 400 milliseconds. By combining on-chain confirmation metrics with client-side synthetic transactions, we create a strictly measurable target. Every success metric links directly back to a precise measurement method, like specific Prometheus queries for your API availability. That leaves absolutely zero room for guessing when the pressure's on.
And look, resource constraints are going to happen. It's just a fact of life during any serious build. When they do, you need a prioritization matrix to fall back on. Priority 1, fixing audit-critical issues, because those flat-out block the launch. Priority 2 might be UX polish and some additional indexing. And Priority 3 covers those deferred analytics features we mentioned a bit earlier. Creating a numeric priority list with a short rationale forces you to make explicit trade-offs. It allows you to easily defend your scheduling decisions without any guesswork or intense arguments when the clock is ticking.
Finally, Section 6, finalizing the blueprint, getting ready for execution.
Looking back at our deployment timeline, we can see the progression perfectly. In Phase 1, our past, we focused on synthesis and operational playbooks, basically gathering up all our knowledge. In Phase 2, right now, in the present, we've built a structured blueprint that incorporates all those loose artifacts into a single, reliable source of truth. And moving into Phase 3, the future, we'll be designing an execution strategy. The cohesive, machine-readable plan we literally just built forms the absolute, verifiable baseline for our next capstone lesson, where we're going to translate these exact milestones into concrete CI/CD pipeline changes, staffing allocations, and Canary rollout scripts.
So I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question to chew on. Is your blueprint a living engine that actively guides your deployment, or is it destined to be just another dusty document sitting unread in a folder? Think about how you can integrate your structured machine-readable plan into your CI pipelines today. Because let me tell you, it makes a world of difference. To really master this subject, dive deeper into CI integrations and explore tons of other incredible Web3 topics, I highly encourage you to visit forge.college. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer by Forge College, and happy building!